The dust cloud rose behind the iron beast as it came to a screeching halt at the Muskogee station platform, and Lily Catherine pressed her trembling hand against the windowpane of the passenger car, watching unfamiliar faces blur past while her heart hammered against her ribs like a caged bird desperate for freedom. The year was 1873, and she had traveled halfway across the country from Boston to the Oklahoma Territory with nothing but a worn carpetbag and a handful of letters from a man named Samuel Everett, a cowboy who promised her a better life than the one she had fled. The train's whistle pierced the humid afternoon air, and Lily stood on shaking legs, smoothing down her best traveling dress. The blue fabric faded from too many washings but still respectable enough to make a decent first impression. Her stomach churned with a mixture of hope and terror as she made her way down the narrow aisle, her fingers clutching the carpetbag so tightly her knuckles turned white. Behind her lay the suffocating memory of her father's debts, the creditors who had come knocking after his death, the landlord who had threatened to throw her onto the streets when she could not pay the rent on their cramped apartment. She had no siblings, no family left to turn to, and the few friends she had possessed had their own troubles to bear. The advertisement in the newspaper had seemed like divine intervention, a chance to start fresh in a place where nobody knew her name or her circumstances. The conductor helped her down the metal steps, and suddenly, Lily found herself standing on the rough wooden platform, the afternoon sun beating down on her bonnet-covered head with an intensity Boston had never known. The air smelled different here, thick with red dust and horse manure, and something wild she could not quite identify. Her eyes scanned the platform, searching for the man whose photograph she had studied by candlelight for the past 3 months, memorizing every line of his face as if it were scripture. Men in wide-brimmed hats and dusty boots walked past, some leading horses, others carrying supplies. Women in calico dresses shepherded children along the platform, and Lily felt more alone than she had ever felt in her entire 22 years. What if Samuel Everett had changed his mind? What if he took one look at her plain face and mousy brown hair and decided the arrangement was a mistake? What if this entire journey had been for nothing, and she found herself stranded in a strange territory with no money to return home and no home to return to? A voice cut through her spiraling thoughts, deep and gentle. "Miss Catherine." Lily turned and found herself looking up at a man who stood at least 6 feet tall, broad-shouldered and lean in the way that came from hard physical labor rather than leisure. His face matched the photograph, but the image had not captured the warmth in his hazel eyes or the kind curve of his mouth. Samuel Everett removed his hat, revealing sun-streaked brown hair that needed a trim, and held it against his chest in a gesture that struck her as both respectful and nervous. "Yes, I am Lily Catherine," she managed to say, her voice barely above a whisper. Samuel's expression broke into a smile that transformed his entire face. "I am mighty glad you made it safely. The journey must have been exhausting. Can I take your bag?" She hesitated for just a moment before allowing him to take the carpetbag from her grip. His hands were calloused and scarred, the hands of a working man, but his touch was careful as he took the worn leather handle. "I have a wagon waiting just over there," Samuel said, gesturing toward a sturdy buckboard hitched to 2 patient horses. "My ranch is about an hour's ride from town. I thought maybe you would like to get something to eat first, or rest for a bit if you need to." The kindness in his voice nearly undid her. Lily had braced herself for disappointment or regret in his eyes, for coldness or indifference. She had not prepared for genuine concern. "I am fine, thank you. Perhaps we could just go to your ranch. I would like to see my new home." Something flickered in Samuel's expression at the word home, but he nodded and offered her his arm. Lily took it, feeling the solid strength beneath the worn fabric of his shirt, and allowed him to guide her toward the wagon. He helped her up onto the seat with the same careful courtesy, then climbed up beside her and took the reins. As they rolled away from the station, Lily tried to take in everything at once. Muskogee was larger than she had expected, with a main street lined with wooden buildings, a bank, a general store, a saloon from which piano music spilled into the afternoon air. People moved about their business, and she noticed immediately the diversity of the population, Native Americans mixing with white settlers and freed slaves, all trying to build lives in this territory that had not yet achieved statehood. "It is not Boston," Samuel said quietly, as if reading her thoughts. "But it is home. The land out here is good if you are willing to work it. I have about 200 acres, a decent herd of cattle, and a house that could use a woman's touch." Lily glanced at him, studying his profile. His jaw was strong, covered with stubble that suggested he had been too nervous to shave that morning. "How long have you had the ranch?" "About 5 years now. Saved up my wages working for other outfits, then bought the land from a family heading back east. Built the house myself, mostly. My neighbor Tom helped with the roof." Samuel kept his eyes on the road ahead, but she could see the pride in his expression. "It is not fancy, but it is solid. Keeps the rain out and the heat at bay, mostly." They rode in silence for a while, the wagon wheels creaking rhythmically, the horses' hooves raising small clouds of red dust. The landscape opened up around them, rolling hills covered in tall grass that swayed in the breeze, scattered trees providing islands of shade. In the distance, Lily could see cattle grazing and birds she did not recognize circled overhead. "I need to be honest with you," Samuel said suddenly, his voice tight. "I know this is not what you might have hoped for. I am just a rancher and it is hard work. The house is not big and there are times when money gets tight. But I promise you this. I will work hard to provide for you, and I will treat you with respect. I know we are strangers, but I hope in time we might become friends at least." Lily felt something crack inside her chest, the careful wall she had built around her heart developing its first fissure. "Mr. Everett, I appreciate your honesty. I should be honest with you as well. I came here because I had nowhere else to go. My father died 6 months ago, leaving me with nothing but debts. I could not pay rent, could not find decent work that would support me. I answered your advertisement because it was my only option." She paused, gathering courage, "But I want you to know that I will work hard too. I can cook and clean and sew. I might not know anything about ranching, but I am willing to learn. And I believe kindness is a good foundation for anything, even a marriage that starts the way ours will." Samuel turned to look at her then, really look at her, and Lily forced herself to meet his gaze. For a long moment, they simply stared at each other, two strangers taking measure of the person to whom they were about to bind their lives. "Then I think we might do just fine," Samuel said finally, and the warmth had returned to his voice. "And please call me Samuel, or Sam if you prefer. Mr. Everett makes me feel like my father." A small smile tugged at Lily's lips. "Then you must call me Lily." The tension between them eased slightly, and Lily allowed herself to relax against the wagon seat. The afternoon sun was beginning its descent toward the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold that she had never seen in Boston's smoke-filled skies. The air smelled clean despite the dust, carrying hints of wild grasses and something floral she could not identify. "That is my property line," Samuel said, pointing toward a fence that stretched across the landscape. "Everything from here to those hills in the distance. The house is just over this rise." Lily's heart began to race again as the wagon crested the hill, and suddenly she could see it. A single-story wooden house with a covered porch, a barn and corral off to one side, a chicken coop, and what looked like a vegetable garden that had seen better days. It was modest, certainly nothing compared to the grand homes on Beacon Hill, but it looked solid and well-maintained, and smoke curled invitingly from the chimney. "I started a fire this morning so the house would not be cold," Samuel explained as he guided the horses toward the barn. "And I tried to tidy up a bit, though I confess housekeeping is not my greatest skill." He brought the wagon to a stop and jumped down, then came around to help Lily descend. His hands were strong and steady on her waist, and she felt a flutter of something she could not quite name as her feet touched the ground. Samuel grabbed her carpet bag and gestured toward the house. "Let me show you around." The interior of the house was simple but clean. A main room that served as both kitchen and living area, with a stone fireplace along one wall and a sturdy table with 4 chairs in the center. A door led to a bedroom that contained a large bed covered with a colorful quilt, a dresser, and a washstand. Another smaller room held a narrow cot and more storage space. "I will sleep in the small room," Samuel said quickly, his ears turning slightly red. "I know we are to be married, but I thought you might want time to adjust before we share quarters. There is no rush for anything." Lily felt her own cheeks warm, but she was grateful for his consideration. "Thank you. That is very thoughtful." Samuel set her carpet bag on the bed and rubbed the back of his neck, a gesture she was beginning to recognize as a sign of nervousness. "I should see to the horses and check on the cattle before dark. Make yourself at home. There is bread and some stew left from yesterday in the kitchen if you are hungry. I will be back in about an hour, and then I can make us some supper." Before Lily could respond, he was gone, the front door closing softly behind him. She stood alone in the small bedroom, surrounded by silence broken only by the ticking of a clock somewhere in the main room. Slowly, she removed her bonnet and set it on the dresser, then caught sight of herself in the small mirror above the washstand. She looked tired, her brown hair escaping its pins, her face pale except for the spots of pink on her cheeks. But her green eyes were bright with something she had not felt in months: hope. Lily unpinned her hair and let it fall to her shoulders, then splashed water from the pitcher onto her face. The coolness revived her, and she quickly repinned her hair into a more presentable style before heading into the main room. The house was indeed tidy, though she could see areas that could use a woman's attention. The curtains were simple and functional rather than decorative, and dust had accumulated in the corners. But the furniture was solid and well made, and someone had taken care to stock the shelves with dishes and cooking supplies. Lily found the stew Samuel had mentioned and heated it over the fire, surprised by how hungry she was. She had barely eaten on the train, her stomach too knotted with anxiety. As she ate, she explored the room more thoroughly, noting the books on a small shelf near the fireplace. Most were practical volumes about ranching and animal husbandry, but there were a few novels as well, worn copies of adventure stories. It pleased her to know that Samuel was a reading man. True to his word, Samuel returned as the sun was setting, his face dusty and his shirt stained with sweat. "Everything looks good with the herd," he reported, then seemed to notice her sitting at the table. "Oh, you found the stew? Good. Let me wash up and I will get started on supper." "I can cook," Lily offered, standing. "If you would like, that is. You have been working all day." Samuel looked surprised but pleased. "That would be mighty kind of you. The pantry is over there, and there is a smokehouse out back with some ham and bacon. I am afraid my cooking is pretty basic." Lily nodded and set about exploring the kitchen area while Samuel washed at the basin. She found flour and cornmeal, some preserved vegetables in jars, and the promised meat in the smokehouse. Within 30 minutes, she had bacon frying and cornbread in the oven, along with some canned green beans warming on the stove. It was simple fare, but the familiar activity of cooking soothed her nerves. Samuel sat at the table, watching her work with an expression she could not quite read. "You move around a kitchen like you know what you are doing." "My mother taught me before she died. I was 14 when we lost her." Lily stirred the beans carefully. "After that, it was just my father and me. He tried his best, but he was not suited for business. He made poor investments, trusted the wrong people. When he got sick last winter, there was no money for doctors." "I am sorry," Samuel said quietly. "That must have been hard." Lily turned to face him, surprised by the genuine sympathy in his voice. "What about you? You mentioned your father earlier. Is your family nearby?" Samuel shook his head. "My parents had a farm in Kansas. They both died of cholera when I was 16. I have a sister who married and moved to California, but we have not spoken in a few years. After our parents died, I worked on various ranches, saved every penny I could. When the opportunity came to buy land here in Oklahoma Territory, I took it." They were both orphans, Lily realized, both alone in the world and trying to build something from nothing. The realization created a sense of kinship between them, a shared understanding of loss and survival. Supper was a quiet affair, but it was comfortable rather than awkward. Samuel complimented her cooking with genuine enthusiasm, having second helpings of both the cornbread and the bacon. After they finished eating, they cleaned up together, falling into an easy rhythm as they washed and dried the dishes. "We should probably discuss the wedding," Samuel said as he hung the dish towel to dry. "I spoke with the circuit preacher last week, and he said he would be coming through Muskogee again in 3 days. We could get married then, if that suits you. Or if you need more time to think about things, we can wait." Lily considered his words carefully. She could tell Samuel was trying to be considerate, giving her a chance to back out if she wished. But where would she go? And more importantly, did she want to go? This man had shown her nothing but kindness since the moment she had stepped off that train. He was not asking for anything she had not already agreed to give. 3 days sounds fine," she said softly. Samuel's shoulders relaxed, and she realized he had been holding tension there. "All right then. We will ride into town on Friday morning. Tom and his wife Martha can stand as witnesses. You will like Martha, I think. She is from Philadelphia originally, came out here 5 years ago. She has been after me to find a wife so she would have another woman nearby to talk to." The mention of potential friendship lifted Lily's spirits. "I would like to meet her." As darkness fell completely outside, Samuel lit several oil lamps, filling the house with warm, golden light. He showed Lily where he kept the spare blankets and explained the routine of the ranch, the morning and evening chores that kept everything running smoothly. "The chickens need feeding at dawn," he said, "and the eggs need collecting. I usually milk the cow before I head out to check the cattle. If you want to help with any of that, I would be grateful, but I do not expect you to do everything at once. Take your time getting used to things." "I want to help," Lily insisted. "This will be my home too. I should contribute." Samuel smiled at that, a real smile that reached his eyes and created crinkles at the corners. "Then I think we are going to get along just fine, Lily Catherine." That night, Lily lay in the large bed that smelled faintly of soap and sunshine, staring at the ceiling and listening to the unfamiliar sounds of the Oklahoma Territory night. Coyotes howled in the distance, insects chirped outside the window, and somewhere in the house she could hear the quiet sounds of Samuel preparing for bed in the small room. She should have been terrified, she thought. She was alone in a strange place with a man she had only just met, about to bind herself to him in marriage. But instead, she felt something that might have been peace. Samuel Everett was kind. He was respectful. He worked hard and took pride in what he had built. Those were qualities worth more than romantic love, which was something she had never expected to find anyway. With that thought, Lily closed her eyes and let sleep claim her. The next 3 days passed in a blur of activity. Lily woke at dawn to the sound of roosters crowing and threw herself into learning the rhythms of ranch life. Samuel was a patient teacher, showing her how to scatter feed for the chickens, how to collect eggs without getting pecked, how to coax milk from the placid cow whose name was Buttercup. She learned to recognize the different sounds the cattle made, to tell when a horse was content or agitated, to read the weather by watching the sky in the afternoons. While Samuel worked with the cattle or repaired fences, Lily attacked the house with determination. She scrubbed floors, washed curtains, organized shelves, and put her own small touches on the space that was becoming her home. She found wildflowers growing near the creek that ran through the property and picked them to place in jars on the table and dresser. Small changes, but they made the house feel more lived in. Samuel noticed everything. He complimented the clean windows, the fresh scent of soap and flowers, the way she had rearranged the pantry to make things easier to find. Each word of praise warmed something inside Lily that had been cold for far too long. On the second evening, Martha and Tom Russell came to visit. Martha was a plump, cheerful woman in her early 30s with laugh lines around her eyes and flour permanently embedded under her fingernails. She swept Lily into a hug the moment they met, chattering enthusiastically about how wonderful it was to have another woman nearby. "You have no idea how lonely it gets out here," Martha said, settling onto the porch with a cup of coffee. "Tom is wonderful, but a woman needs female conversation, you know. We should have quilting bees, and you must come over for Sunday supper once you are settled." Tom Russell was a quiet man with kind eyes, clearly devoted to his talkative wife. He and Samuel discussed cattle prices and water rights while Martha grilled Lily about her journey, her impressions of Oklahoma Territory, and her plans for the ranch house. "You are doing a wonderful job already," Martha declared, surveying the clean room with approval. "Samuel has been batching it for too long. This place needed a woman's touch. And he is a good man, Lily. One of the best. Works harder than anyone I know and honest as the day is long. You did well choosing him." Lily refrained from mentioning that Samuel had done most of the choosing, that she had simply been desperate enough to accept. But Martha's words reassured her nonetheless. It helped to hear from someone else that Samuel was as decent as he seemed. Friday morning arrived with clear blue skies and temperatures that promised to climb as the day progressed. Lily dressed carefully in her best dress, a simple green cotton that brought out the color of her eyes. She had washed and pressed it the day before, determined to look respectable for her wedding, even if it would not be the elaborate affair she had sometimes imagined as a girl. Samuel emerged from his room wearing clean trousers and a white shirt, his hair still damp from washing, his face freshly shaved. He stopped when he saw her, and something flickered in his expression that made Lily's breath catch. "You look beautiful," he said simply. Lily felt heat rise to her cheeks. "Thank you. You look very nice as well." The ride into Muskogee felt different this time. Lily was more aware of Samuel sitting beside her, the strength of his forearms as he held the reins, the way the morning light caught in his brown hair. She found herself stealing glances at him, wondering what he was thinking if he was as nervous as she was. "Are you having second thoughts?" Samuel asked quietly as they approached the town. "No," Lily answered, surprising herself with the truth of it. "Are you?" "No." Samuel glanced at her, and the warmth in his eyes made her heart skip. "I just want you to know that you can still change your mind if you want. I would not hold it against you." "I know," Lily said, "but I am not changing my mind." The wedding itself was brief and simple. The circuit preacher was a weathered man with a booming voice who conducted the ceremony in the small church at the edge of town. Martha and Tom stood as witnesses, along with a few other townspeople who had nothing better to do on a Friday morning. Lily spoke her vows in a clear voice, promising to love and honor Samuel Everett, and felt the weight of those words settle over her like a mantle. When Samuel slipped a simple gold band onto her finger, Lily stared at it in surprise. She had not expected a ring. "It was my mother's," Samuel whispered. "I want you to have it." The preacher pronounced them husband and wife, and Samuel leaned down to kiss her. It was chaste and brief, just a soft press of lips, but it sent a shiver through Lily's entire body. Afterward, Martha insisted on hosting a wedding breakfast at the local hotel restaurant. A small group gathered, and Lily found herself welcomed warmly by people she had never met, ranchers and their wives who congratulated them and shared advice and teased Samuel good-naturedly about finally settling down. "You got yourself a good one, Sam," said an older rancher named Bill. "My Sarah says any woman willing to come all the way from Boston to this territory has real grit." Lily smiled and thanked them, feeling increasingly like she might actually belong here. These were good people, hardworking and kind, trying to build lives in a place that demanded everything they had to give. By the time they returned to the ranch in the late afternoon, Lily was exhausted but happy. She was now Lily Everett, married to a man she barely knew but was beginning to genuinely like. Samuel helped her down from the wagon, and this time his hands lingered on her waist for just a moment longer than necessary. "I know this is not how most marriages start," he said. "But I meant what I said in my letters. I will do my best to be a good husband to you." Lily looked up at him, at this man who had shown her nothing but kindness and respect. "And I will do my best to be a good wife." They stood there for a long moment, neither quite sure what came next. Then Samuel cleared his throat and stepped back. "I should tend to the horses. Make yourself comfortable." As he led the team toward the barn, Lily walked into the house that was now legally and officially her home. She was married. This was her life now. And somehow, against all odds, she thought it might actually turn out all right. That evening they ate supper together as they had for the past 3 nights, but there was a new awareness between them, a consciousness of the commitment they had made. After the dishes were washed and put away, they sat on the porch together, watching the sun set over the rolling hills. "I have been thinking," Samuel said, breaking the comfortable silence, "about sleeping arrangements." Lily's heart began to pound, but Samuel continued before she could respond. "I meant what I said about taking things slow. But that little room is pretty uncomfortable, and this is supposed to be a real marriage. I thought maybe we could share the bedroom, but I will sleep on top of the quilt and you can sleep under it. That way we are both comfortable, but there is no pressure for anything else, not until you are ready." Lily considered his words carefully. She appreciated his consideration, but they were married now, and she knew what was expected. "Samuel, you do not have to do that. We are husband and wife." "I know what we are," Samuel said gently. "But I also know you barely know me. I do not want you to feel obligated or afraid. When we come together as husband and wife properly, I want it to be because you want to, not because you think you have to." The kindness of his words brought tears to Lily's eyes. How many men would be so considerate? How many would even care about what she wanted? "You are a good man, Samuel Everett." "I am trying to be," he replied quietly. That night, they lay in the darkness of the bedroom, Samuel on top of the quilt as promised and Lily beneath it. The bed was large enough that they were not touching, but Lily was intensely aware of his presence, the sound of his breathing, the warmth that radiated from his body. "Good night, Lily," Samuel whispered into the darkness. "Good night, Samuel." Sleep was a long time coming, but when it did, Lily dreamed of wildflowers and wide open skies. The days that followed established a new routine. Lily threw herself into making the ranch house a real home. Sewing new curtains from fabric, Martha helped her select in town, planting a proper vegetable garden, even attempting to nurse the struggling flowers back to health. Samuel worked from dawn to dusk, checking on the cattle, repairing fences, breaking a young horse that had been giving him trouble. They worked together when they could, and Lily found she enjoyed the physical labor of ranch life. She liked feeding the chickens and collecting their eggs, liked the warm weight of fresh milk in the pail, liked seeing tangible results from her efforts. Boston had never offered her this kind of satisfaction. More importantly, she and Samuel were becoming friends. They talked during meals, sharing stories of their pasts, their hopes for the future. Samuel told her about his dreams of expanding the herd, maybe buying more land. Lily spoke of wanting to learn to ride properly, of maybe keeping bees for honey, of all the things she had never imagined wanting when she lived in the city. Each night they lay in the same bed, Samuel respectfully keeping his distance, but Lily found herself increasingly aware of him. She noticed the way his muscles moved beneath his shirt when he worked, the genuine warmth of his smile, the patience he showed when teaching her something new. He was handsome in a rugged way, and more than that, he was kind and decent and hardworking. She realized with some surprise, beginning to develop real feelings for her husband. One evening, about 2 weeks after the wedding, a summer storm rolled across the plains. Thunder cracked overhead, and lightning illuminated the bedroom in brilliant flashes. Lily had always been nervous during storms, and she found herself tensing with each boom of thunder. "Are you all right?" Samuel asked softly in the darkness. "I am fine," Lily lied, but another crack of thunder made her jump. Without a word, Samuel moved closer and offered his hand. Lily took it gratefully, lacing her fingers through his. His hand was warm and calloused and strong, and just holding it made her feel safer. "Storms are fierce out here," Samuel said, "but this house is solid. We are safe." Lily squeezed his hand. "I know, thank you." They fell asleep that way, hands clasped together, and when Lily woke in the morning, she found herself curled against Samuel's side, his arm around her shoulders. He was still sleeping, his face peaceful and younger looking in the dawn light. Lily allowed herself a moment to simply look at him, this man who had become so important to her in such a short time. As if sensing her gaze, Samuel's eyes opened. He looked down at her, seeming surprised to find her so close, but he did not pull away. "Good morning." "Good morning," Lily whispered back. Something passed between them in that moment, an understanding that went beyond words. Samuel's hand came up to cup her cheek, his thumb brushing softly across her skin. "Lily, I need to tell you something." "What is it?" "I know this started as an arrangement, a practical solution for both of us. But these past couple of weeks, getting to know you, seeing you here in my home, working beside you, I have developed real feelings for you, true feelings." He paused, searching her face. "I am falling in love with you, Lily, and I understand if you do not feel the same way. I just needed you to know." Lily's heart swelled in her chest, so full of emotion she could barely breathe. "I feel the same way," she confessed. "I did not expect to, but I do." "You have been so kind to me, Samuel, so patient and understanding. How could I not fall in love with you?" Samuel's expression transformed, joy and relief flooding his features. "Really, really," Lily confirmed, and then she closed the distance between them and kissed him. This kiss was nothing like the chaste peck they had shared at the wedding. This was deep and searching, full of all the feelings they had been holding back. Samuel pulled her closer, and Lily went willingly, pressing herself against him and marveling at the rightness of it, the way they seemed to fit together perfectly. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Samuel rested his forehead against hers. "Are you sure?" "I am sure," Lily said firmly. "I am your wife, Samuel, and I want to be your wife in every way." What followed was tender and sweet, Samuel taking his time to show Lily the depth of his feelings, treating her with a gentleness that made tears leak from the corners of her eyes. Afterward, they lay tangled together, the morning sun streaming through the window, and Lily felt more complete than she had ever felt in her life. "I love you," Samuel murmured against her hair. "I love you too," Lily replied, and meant it with her whole heart. From that day forward, their marriage transformed from a practical arrangement into a true partnership built on love and mutual respect. They worked side by side during the days and fell asleep in each other's arms at night. The ranch began to thrive under their combined efforts, the garden producing abundance, the chickens laying prolifically, the cattle growing fat on good grass and careful management. Martha became a close friend, visiting regularly and teaching Lily the skills she would need to survive on the frontier. She showed her how to preserve food for winter, how to make soap and candles, how to shoot a rifle for protection when Samuel was out on the range. The two women spent hours together, quilting and canning and sharing the intimacies that only female friends could share. "I have never seen Samuel so happy," Martha confided one afternoon as they worked together in Lily's kitchen. "Tom says he is like a different person, always smiling, talking about you constantly when they work together. You are good for him, Lily." "He is good for me too," Lily replied honestly. "I never imagined I could be this happy." Summer faded into autumn, and the Oklahoma Territory blazed with color. Samuel and Lily worked to prepare for winter, cutting wood and stocking the pantry and making sure the barn was ready to shelter the animals during the cold months ahead. They attended church socials and barn raisings, becoming part of the community in a way that made Lily feel truly at home. One evening in late September, as they sat on the porch watching the sunset, Lily turned to Samuel with news she had been holding inside all day. "I think I might be with child." Samuel's head whipped around to stare at her. "Are you certain?" "Not completely, but I have missed my monthly courses and I have been feeling queasy in the mornings. Martha says those are sure signs." Lily bit her lip nervously. "How do you feel about that?" Samuel stood up abruptly, and for a moment Lily's heart sank. But then he pulled her to her feet and spun her around, laughing with pure joy. "How do I feel?" "Lily, I am thrilled. A baby, our baby." His happiness was infectious, and Lily found herself laughing too, her earlier anxiety melting away. Samuel set her down gently, then dropped to his knees and pressed his face against her still flat stomach. "Hello in there, little one. I am your father and I already love you so much." Lily ran her fingers through her husband's hair, overcome with emotion. This was her life now. This good, kind man, this home they had built together. And now, a child on the way. It was more than she had ever dared to hope for when she had stepped off that train 6 months ago, terrified and alone. The pregnancy progressed well, despite the usual discomforts. Martha was a wealth of information and support, having had 3 children of her own. Samuel became even more solicitous, if that was possible, constantly worrying that Lily was working too hard or not eating enough. He took over the heavier chores without complaint and spent his evenings reading to her from the Bible or one of his adventure novels while she knitted tiny clothes for the baby. Winter arrived with a vengeance, bringing snow and ice that Lily had never experienced in Boston. The ranch became a small island of warmth and light in a world of white. Samuel spent long hours ensuring the animals were cared for, breaking ice on water troughs and distributing hay to the cattle. Lily kept the house warm and comfortable, cooking hearty meals and maintaining the cheerful atmosphere that made their home a haven. Christmas came, and they celebrated quietly, just the two of them. Samuel surprised her with a rocking chair he had been building in secret in the barn, perfect for nursing the baby. Lily gave him a new shirt she had sewn, and they spent the day reading and talking and simply enjoying being together. This time last year, I was alone in a boarding house in Kansas, eating dried beef and hardtack for Christmas dinner, Samuel said as they lay in bed that night. And now I have you, and soon we will have a baby. I feel like the luckiest man alive. I was in Boston, selling off the last of my mother's jewelry to pay for heating coal, Lily replied. Wondering how I was going to survive another week, I never could have imagined this. You saved my life, Samuel. No, Samuel said firmly, pulling her closer. We saved each other. Spring arrived late that year, the snow finally melting in early April. As the land came back to life, so did Lily's energy, the exhaustion of early pregnancy giving way to a restless need to prepare. She washed and rewashed the baby clothes, arranged and rearranged the cradle Samuel had borrowed from Martha, and drove her poor husband nearly mad with constant requests to check and recheck that everything was ready. The baby is not due until June, Samuel reminded her gently. We have plenty of time. But time seemed to accelerate. The wildflowers bloomed across the prairie, and Lily's belly grew round and firm. She loved feeling the baby move inside her, those fluttering kicks and rolls that reassured her that her child was healthy and strong. Samuel would spend hours with his hand on her stomach, marveling at every movement, talking to the baby about the ranch and the horses and all the things they would do together. In late May, Martha's oldest daughter rode out to the ranch with urgent news. A band of outlaws had been spotted in the area, robbing homesteads and causing trouble. The territorial marshal was assembling a group of men to track them down, and they needed Samuel's help. I do not want to leave you this close to your time, Samuel said, pacing the kitchen with agitation. What if something happens while I am gone? I will be fine, Lily assured him, though she felt nervous herself. Martha is only an hour's ride away, and the baby is not due for at least 3 more weeks. Go help catch these outlaws before they hurt someone. Samuel was torn. She could see it in his face. But he was also a man who took his responsibilities seriously, both to his family and to his community. Finally, he nodded. I will go. But I will leave Tom's boy here to help with the chores and to ride for Martha if you need her. And I will be back as soon as possible. 3 days at most, I promise. He kissed her long and hard before he left, making her promise at least a dozen times that she would not overexert herself and would send for Martha at the first sign of anything unusual. Lily watched him ride away with a group of grim-faced men, all armed and determined, and felt a chill of fear run down her spine. The Oklahoma Territory might be becoming more civilized, but it was still a dangerous place. For 2 days, Lily kept herself busy with light chores and tried not to worry. Tom's 15-year-old son Billy was a good boy, handling the animals with competence and checking on her regularly. But on the 3rd morning, Lily woke to a dull ache in her lower back and a feeling of pressure that made her uneasy. It is nothing, she told herself. Just the baby getting into position. Samuel will be home today. But by afternoon, the ache had intensified into regular pains that took her breath away. When her water broke as she was preparing supper, soaking her skirts in the floor, Lily knew she was in trouble. The baby was coming early and Samuel was not there. Billy. She called out, trying to keep the panic from her voice. I need you to ride for Martha Russell. Ride as fast as you can and tell her the baby is coming." The boy's eyes went wide with fear, but he nodded and ran for his horse. Lily heard hoofbeats thundering away, and then she was alone, pains coming harder and faster than she had expected. She managed to get herself to the bedroom and onto the bed before another contraction hit, this one so strong it made her cry out. Time became meaningless, measured only in waves of pain. Lily had no idea how long she labored alone, clutching the sheets and trying to remember everything Martha had told her about childbirth. It hurt more than she had imagined possible, and she was terrified, calling for Samuel even though she knew he could not hear her. Finally, blessedly, she heard the sound of a wagon and then Martha's voice calling her name. The older woman swept into the room like a general taking command of a battlefield, taking one look at Lily and immediately setting to work. "All right, honey, I am here now. You are going to be fine. Let us see how far along you are." Martha's calm competence was exactly what Lily needed. She followed the older woman's instructions, pushing when told to push, breathing when told to breathe, and trying not to think about Samuel out there somewhere, not knowing his child was being born. "One more big push, Lily. You can do this. Come on now, give me everything you have got." Lily bore down with all her strength, screaming with the effort, and suddenly there was a release of pressure, and the sound she had been waiting for, the thin, angry wail of a newborn baby. "It is a boy," Martha announced, her voice thick with emotion. "A healthy baby boy." Lily collapsed back against the pillows, tears streaming down her face as Martha cleaned the baby and wrapped him in a blanket before placing him in her arms. He was red-faced and squalling, with a shock of dark hair and eyes that would probably turn the same hazel as his father's. He was the most beautiful thing Lily had ever seen. "Hello, little one," she whispered, stroking his soft cheek with one finger. "I am your mother, and your father is going to be so happy to meet you." Martha stayed with her through the night, helping with the afterbirth and making sure both Lily and the baby were comfortable. By morning, Lily was exhausted but filled with a joy so complete it was almost painful. She nursed her son, marveling at the way he latched on instinctively, and tried not to worry about Samuel. He rode in just after noon, looking dusty and exhausted. Lily heard his voice from the bedroom, heard Martha intercept him in the main room. "Is she all right?" "Billy found us on the road and told me the baby was coming. I rode as hard as I could. Is Lily all right?" "She is fine, Samuel. They are both fine. Go meet your son." The bedroom door burst open and Samuel stood there, wild-eyed and breathing hard. His gaze found Lily in the bed, the bundle in her arms, and his expression crumpled with relief and wonder. "A son!" His voice cracked on the word. "A son," Lily confirmed, smiling through fresh tears. "Come meet him." Samuel crossed the room in 3 long strides and dropped to his knees beside the bed, staring at the tiny face peeking out from the blanket. "He is so small and perfect. Lily, you did this. You are amazing." "We did this," Lily corrected. "He is ours, Samuel, our son." Samuel reached out with one trembling finger to touch the baby's hand, and tiny fingers immediately wrapped around it with surprising strength. The look on Samuel's face in that moment was something Lily would remember for the rest of her life. Pure, unconditional love and wonder and overwhelming emotion. "What should we name him?" Lily asked softly. "What about James?" Samuel suggested. "After your father," Lily's throat tightened. Her father had made mistakes, but he had loved her in his way. "James Samuel Everett. That sounds good." They sat together, the 3 of them, as Martha quietly left them alone. Samuel carefully took his son into his arms, cradling him with surprising confidence for a first-time father. Little James yawned, his tiny face scrunching up in a way that made both parents laugh. "Welcome to the world, James," Samuel whispered. "I promise to do my best to be the father you deserve." The weeks that followed were a blur of sleepless nights and constant feedings, but Lily had never been happier. Samuel was a devoted father, waking with her in the night to change diapers, walking the floor with James when he was fussy, singing lullabies in his deep voice that never failed to soothe the baby. They were exhausted and overwhelmed, but they were also complete in a way neither had expected. The community rallied around them, as frontier communities always did. Martha and the other ranch wives came by regularly with food and advice and offers to watch the baby so Lily could rest. Tom helped Samuel with the heavier ranch work until Lily was fully recovered. The circuit preacher came through and baptized James on a beautiful Sunday in July, with half the county in attendance for the celebration afterward. As summer progressed, James grew from a tiny newborn into a chubby baby with his father's smile and his mother's green eyes. He was a happy child, quick to laugh, and he transformed the ranch house into a real home filled with love and laughter. One evening in late August, as they sat on the porch watching the sunset while James dozed in his cradle, Samuel pulled Lily close and kissed the top of her head. "Are you happy?" he asked. Lily thought about the question, about everything that had brought her to this moment. She thought about stepping off that train 16 months ago, terrified and alone, with no idea what the future held. She thought about Samuel's kindness, the way they had built a life together, the love that had grown between them. She looked at her son, sleeping peacefully, and at her husband, this good man who had given her everything she had never known she wanted. "I am happier than I ever imagined possible," she answered honestly. "I thought my life was over when I left Boston, but it was really just beginning." "Mine too," Samuel said quietly. "I thought I was just looking for someone to help run the ranch, someone to share the work with. But you gave me so much more. You gave me a real family." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the sky turn orange and pink and purple. In the distance, cattle lowed and somewhere a horse whinnied. The air smelled of grass and flowers and the peculiar scent that came right before rain. It was perfect, Lily thought. This moment, this life, this love they had built from nothing. The years passed with the steady rhythm of ranch life. James grew into a sturdy toddler, then a rambunctious boy who followed his father everywhere, learning to ride and rope and care for the animals. 2 years after James was born, Lily delivered a daughter they named Sarah, who had her mother's quiet determination and her father's kind heart. 3 years after Sarah came another son, Thomas, named after their neighbor and good friend Tom Russell, who had become like family. The ranch prospered under Samuel and Lily's careful management. They expanded the herd, bought more land, and built a larger house with enough rooms for their growing family. Samuel's reputation as an honest rancher and skilled cattleman grew, and he was eventually elected to serve on the territorial council when Oklahoma moved closer to statehood. But through all the changes and growth, through the busy years of raising children and building a legacy, Samuel and Lily never forgot what had brought them together. Every year on the anniversary of the day she had stepped off that train, Samuel would take Lily into town, just the two of them, and they would stand on the platform where they had first met. "I remember being so scared that day," Lily would always say. "I did not know if you would be kind or cruel, if I had made a terrible mistake." And Samuel would always reply, "I remember thinking you were the bravest woman I had ever seen. You crossed half a country to start a new life with a stranger. That takes real courage." They would hold hands and remember, and then they would go home to the life they had built together, to the children who were their greatest joy, to the ranch that was their shared accomplishment. When James was 16, tall and strong like his father, He asked his parents how they had met. The family was gathered around the dinner table, Sarah and Thomas listening with the casual attention of younger children, not yet interested in romance. "Your mother was a mail-order bride," Samuel said simply. "She answered an advertisement I placed in a Boston newspaper, and she took a chance on a cowboy she had never met." "Were you in love right away?" James asked. Lily and Samuel looked at each other across the table, sharing a smile that held years of shared memories. "No," Lily answered honestly. "I was terrified and your father was nervous. We barely knew each other. But he showed me kindness from the very first moment, and that made all the difference." "Kindness is the best foundation for love," Samuel added. "Everything else, passion and romance and all that, those things can come and go. But kindness and respect, treating each other as partners, that is what makes a marriage last." Sarah, 13 now and beginning to think about such things, leaned forward with interest. "But you do love each other, right? Really love each other?" "More than anything," Lily assured her daughter. "Your father is my best friend, my partner, and the love of my life. But it did not happen overnight. We built that love day by day through hard work and good times and difficult times. Love is a choice you make every single day." Young Thomas, only 10, made a face at all the romantic talk. "I am never getting married. It sounds complicated." Everyone laughed at that, and the conversation moved on to other topics. But later that night, as Lily and Samuel lay in bed, she thought about what they had told the children. "You think they understand?" she asked. "About how special what we have is?" "They will," Samuel said confidently. "When they are older and maybe starting families of their own, they will understand. We are showing them every day what a good marriage looks like. That is the best gift we can give them." Lily snuggled closer to her husband, this man who had saved her in so many ways, who had shown her what real love looked like. "I would do it all again, you know. Answer that advertisement, get on that train, step onto that platform not knowing what I would find. I would do it all again in a heartbeat." Samuel tightened his arms around her. "So would I. Best decision I ever made, placing that advertisement. Second best decision was having the courage to actually meet that train when it arrived." "Were you really nervous?" Lily had never asked him that directly. "Terrified," Samuel admitted. "I kept thinking, what if she takes one look at me and runs back to the train? What if I am not good enough? What if this is a terrible mistake? But you still came. You still showed up with kindness." "Because even though I was scared, I had hope. Hope that maybe, just maybe, I might find something real. And I did. I found you." They fell asleep wrapped in each other's arms, just as they had done nearly every night for almost 2 decades, still as much in love as they had been when they had first admitted their feelings in that dawn-lit bedroom so long ago. The years continued to pass. James grew up and married a sweet girl from town, starting his own small ranch on land his parents helped him buy. Sarah became a teacher, educating the children of Muskogee in a small schoolhouse, and eventually married a banker with literary aspirations. Thomas followed his father into ranching, taking over more and more of the day-to-day operations as Samuel and Lily aged. Oklahoma achieved statehood in 1907, and Samuel and Lily attended the celebration in Guthrie, marveling at how much the territory had changed since Lily had first arrived 34 years earlier. Towns had grown into cities, the wild lawlessness had given way to civilization, and the frontier had been tamed for better or worse. But through all the changes in the world around them, Samuel and Lily remained constants for each other. They watched their children succeed and sometimes fail, supported them through their own marriages and the births of grandchildren, and took pride in the legacy they had built. When Samuel's hair turned white and his joints grew stiff with arthritis, Lily was there to help him into the saddle and tend to him when the work proved too much. When Lily's eyesight began to fail and her hands grew too weak to do the fine needlework she had always loved, Samuel would read to her for hours and help her with tasks that had become difficult. They celebrated their 40th wedding anniversary surrounded by children and grandchildren, the house full of noise and love and laughter. That night, alone in their room after everyone had left, they sat together on the porch as they had done thousands of times before, holding hands and watching the stars. 40 years, Lily marveled. How did we get so lucky? It was not just luck, Samuel said. It was work and commitment and choosing each other every single day. But mostly, it was taking that first step. You had the courage to get on that train, and I had the courage to show up at the station. Everything else followed from those two decisions. Best decision I ever made, Lily said, repeating the words she had spoken so many times over the years. Mine too, Samuel agreed. They sat in comfortable silence, two people who had been strangers once, brought together by circumstance and necessity, who had built a love that had sustained them through 4 decades of life's challenges and triumphs. The Oklahoma night was warm and still, filled with the sounds and smells that had become so familiar over the years. Inside the house, a clock chimed the hour. Tomorrow there would be chores to do, grandchildren to visit, the ongoing work of maintaining the ranch that Thomas was slowly taking over completely. But tonight, there was just this moment, this perfect peace, this love that had started with fear and kindness and had grown into something that would outlast them both. I love you, Lily Everett, Samuel said, his voice still strong despite his years. I love you, Samuel Everett, Lily replied. Thank you for greeting me with kindness all those years ago. Thank you for being the man I needed you to be. Thank you for being brave enough to step off that train. They remained on the porch until the stars came out in full glory. Two hearts that had beaten as one for 40 years, grateful for the path that had brought them together and the life they had built. The Wild West that had once seemed so frightening to a girl from Boston had become home, and the cowboy who had greeted her with kindness had become her everything. And as the Oklahoma wind whispered through the grass, and the cattle settled in for the night, and the ranch rested under the watchful stars, Samuel and Lily Everett held each other close and knew that their story, which had begun with such uncertainty and fear, had become the greatest love story either of them could have imagined. Their legacy would live on through their children and grandchildren, through the ranch they had built together, and through the example they had set of what marriage could be when it was built on kindness, respect, and a love that grew deeper with every passing year.